Good afternoon, Sophie. We have together the pleasure of being in Galerie Rue de Rome in Paris. It's a rainy day, and I think the first day we met in Munich was also a rainy day 5 years ago.
So it's good luck.
It's good luck. It's definitely good luck. It's our 5th year as a startup, and therefore we have taken the time to reflect with the people with whom we have been working since the beginning, and how we have evolved during those 5 years, how we have been able to develop innovative solutions together, and what are the key factors behind this ability to develop together, in fact. So we have met several of your fellow startuppers, and if I recall well, when we started about a very practical, technical issue related to the art insurance process, which was the problem of the art valuation. It was very cumbersome for us. We had to digest mass of information. It was slow, and therefore we wanted to definitely erase this pain point of the art insurance underwriting process. And what was your reaction regarding these challenges we were facing?
So it's very interesting, Jean, to come back to the beginnings of a startup, because that's something that a lot of startups founders would tell you, is that their initial market is not the one they envisioned. And I don't think initially we envisioned insurance as a market for us, as a pool of clients. We thought insurance would be a great partner. And the reason we went to Iris Handke, who actually made the connection with Generali very early on, is because she was an expert in the field of insurance, and we saw insurance as a locus of responsibility in the art market. The question of pricing in the art market is very sensitive. You might get a different price from a seller or from a buyer. If you're on the selling side, you might have incentives to increase the price. If you're on the buying side, you're negotiating down. And there are so many different strategies around pricing in between. And we thought, you know what, insurance is a very interesting place to start with, because here you have experts who don't have a vested interest in manipulating the price. They have a vested interest in actually being right about the price to protect themselves and to protect their clients. And so we really looked at insurance as a pool of expertise. And then when we started to have, these conversations with underwriters and, art experts who are working within the insurance industry, that's where we realized that we could do something for them, maybe. That maybe we could help them in their work. That's when we realized that it was so hard, actually, for the insurance business in general to access data, to have the right data, to track values. And we started to understand more and more that the complexity of value is really related to this multidimensionality of price in the art world. There's no one price for one artwork. It's a multidimensional reality that has to do with time and place and condition and the identity of who's selling or buying. And all of this is something that we refined over time through our collaboration with insurers.
That's true. That definitively it started from the insurance process. Mm-hmm. And we used the tool within the underwriting teams, to help us put the right value around art objects. But this is not really the breakthrough, in fact. What was the breakthrough for us? Because this was a kind of hidden process. We didn't mention to our clients that we were using your tool, which simply used them. Then came this idea of opening up to the public and giving access to the final clients, to the database and to the tool. And that was something which was much more revolutionary, because it was addressing another type of needs and another type of clients.
Absolutely. And it's interesting that we did that switch together between being a back office solution to being a user-centric product in a way. So we still today, we don't sell directly to individual collectors or art professionals. We are still very confidential in the way that we reach the end user. But what was really interesting there for us is that by doing that, by actually sharing the results of our research and our technology with a wider audience, what you get is actually almost like a stabilizing force in the market and the access to information. And by that, I mean that one thing that we understood very early on is that there is information available on a very small subset of the market, and it's the market that deals and trades publicly, auction houses, auction sales. But for the rest of the market, data is very difficult to access, so it requires a lot of legwork to actually call people, get information, try to triangulate information, and come up with a conception or the beginning of an answer around value and trends. And when we started to do to release this information, these calculations we were making on a vast majority of artists on the market to end users, we realized that the interest of the users was really in those artists that don't have auction results. Artists that are traded in the gallery sector, that have a market, have a career, and don't sell at auction, and because of that, have a very, very, very difficult time justifying prices. So that's where the stabilizing force aspect of AI comes into play, because when you do that, you kind of anchor an understanding of price based on facts and objective and quantifiable factors.
Yeah, and for us, what was also extremely important at that time, it was to explain the methodology, explain the technology, because it was back 4 years ago, and AI at that time was not such a public affair as it is now. Still AI models were not in their infancy because they were 10 years in terms of technology, but the public usage was very limited. So I remember being with you on stage and explaining that occurrence is not causation, that you need to be sure that the set of data was good, and then the way to read the market is in fact a proven way of reading the market. It's not something which is a pure invention. It has historical fact behind, and so on and so forth. And I found this period when we were touring and explaining why we were putting those tools in the public domain and what was their virtue extremely interesting, because we had also to do the pedagogy of AI and the pedagogy of a data model. And that was quite telling to see the reaction of the public. And there was a whole spectrum of reaction. You may recall, people totally in disbelief, people willingly entering, people seeing quickly also the evolutions potential of the thing. So that was extremely interesting.
From threat to hope. Yeah. You had, both, like the entire spectrum. And that was fascinating, actually. That was very interesting, the way usually our meeting started was about, what do you base your findings on? And the fact that we dedicated so much energy, and we still do today, to gathering the representative data that is actually able to represent the value of artists, as opposed to just purely public sales and auction results, was the first way for us to convince that we were actually doing a serious job. And that's how Viviane Ebersman, who is a great expert in New York, right away she understood what we were doing, because she understood that we were looking at the right type of data, although that was really difficult to do. And she respected the fact that we were putting all this work into looking at the right factors, looking at the right source of information. And so I think that was the big question initially, was what do you base your findings on? And now I think the questions are a little bit different. It's more, what can I do with it?
Because also the AI revolution has taken place in meantime. ChatGPT is in everyone's pocket, and so definitely the technology has been adopted massively, and therefore the questions are very different. And we see that with the present functionality we are giving to our brokers, distributor, agents, which is also using the technology, now in a totally integrated way, so via a digital process, and the people are no more questioning it, they are just adopting it very, very fast. So it's very telling, I think, this evolution. But in meantime, we made another, I would say, contribution, which is in fact all those public communication we organize, discovering that the data you have accumulated, this lake of information was extremely rich in depicting the reality of the art market. And therefore, we could contribute also to, I would say, the enlightenment of the public in better understanding how the market was effectively working.
And I think that's, I would say that's to your credit as a startup within this very large Generali group. You've had the agility to actually be able to see what you could contribute to the ecosystems. And you were able to actually do that and really bring forward a value proposition that was pure thought leadership. It was just about saying, well, we work on really good data. We have very interesting findings to share. It has no relationship whatsoever with our insurance products. We're doing this because we think it matters. And I think it was a very strong message, especially when we did the first big one was on the Italian art scene.
Yeah, with the minister in Rome.
Yes, and I don't know what's your memory of that, because we had been doing some Deloitte art and finance conference together, but this thing of the Italian market, I think, was really mind-blowing in terms of the impact
and the reaction, because the press was there and the people saw that there was a problem in the Italian market they have not really fathomed, and there was real public appetite for this information and also political appetite as well. I mean, what can we do with that? So that was a very good one, I must say.
And it was, again, it was not just the market, it was the ecosystems. What is working, what is not working for Italian artists today? Are international careers being made? Are Italian artists traveling or not? And the findings were surprising. Initially, we had these counterintuitive results where we had to really discuss with the journalists, and we found that, well, actually, Italian artists are very much represented abroad, but what does that mean? It means they have no space to grow within the local art ecosystem. And the conclusion was that the local art scene really needed some strengthening so that the Italian artists can actually grow in Italy before they go abroad, as opposed to just get out of Italy to try and get some steam.
Recognition, in New York or in London.
Yeah, so that was a very interesting finding that I think that was really well received. And then we did the other report on the French artists in the market with the Beaux-Arts Quotidien de l'Art report. And for me, that's really very interesting to see how Generali used this. And could you tell us what it meant for you? What kind of results?
I think at the very origin of Generali, there is the notion that insurance contributes to society by protecting, by bringing somehow a disciplined way of organizing a life. And this also has meant for Generali to invest in superb art pieces, in contributing also to the renovation of city centers, to be an active player of society, and now a very, I would say, strong one via the human safety net, which tries to convey all kinds of initiatives toward the larger public in terms of education, in terms of protection. So I think we are very much part of this initial, I would say, humanistic philosophy of Generali. And so it came quite naturally to say, okay, if we can bring good things to society, let's do it. I think also all of us in ARTE, we are quite, I would say, we are all a bit academic in a sense. So we love sharing information, we love teaching. Many of us have those kind of roles in different institutions. So for us, going to the public and say, okay, this is what we have discovered with Wondeur, this is how you could see the art market, is simply a matter of sharing knowledge, which is quite natural. And I think also for that, we need a good partner. We need people who are crazy enough to follow us in those initiatives and crunch an ever larger number of data in order to come up with telling information, because those things don't come by chance. Normally, you need to work a lot the data in order to make them talk. I mean, it's not.
I think the more we grow, the more we understand the complexity of prices in the art market. And so initially, we were looking at coming up with a price that could be buffered with, an uncertainty margin around it. And now we are looking at price in a much more refined way. We have 5 results when we launch a request in our system. The answer to the question of the value of the artwork will be 5 different approaches to price. And I think the more we refine that, the more value we add, because those questions around why 5? Why it's fascinating to see that you have auction liquidity. What would happen if you were to sell this work tomorrow? Long-term value.
Without a guaranteed price.
Without a guarantee. Long-term value, which would be liquidity tomorrow. Liquidity in 3 years, in 5 years, in 10 years. That could be very different from liquidity today. Then you have liquidity on the dealer market as opposed to auction. Some artists have very strong dealer values and they don't have auction results that back up this. So it makes them very vulnerable on the auction market. Their prices could crash because there's no historical results.
Result and no volumes.
To reassure the buyer. Even if their prices are actually very, very robust and very well substantiated in the dealer market. So we're looking at all of that. And the more we learn, the more we feel that AI is going to be and is starting to be a stabilizing force in the market, because now we don't have to deal with speculation and speculative risk. We can identify, the tech can say, well, here on this artist, there is a speculative risk, 100%, because those values differ too much to be able to be stable. And so just that, if we, just removing the uncertainty around speculation and being able to say, well, this is fundamental anchoring, is a transformative new contribution.
And just something coming to my mind. And have you tried also to correlate with, I would say, larger financial markets, equity market, real estate market, bond market, and the state of liquidity and all of those markets? Because it could be telling, because it's a physical market, it's a non-organized market, but nevertheless, we have seen that there are correspondence. I mean, when the real estate market is very dry, it's very rare that the art market is good.
Absolutely. And you're right, it's macro trends that actually come into play. What we see, though, is that the art market is such in an infancy compared to any other market in terms of the liquidity aspect. Most artworks don't have a liquidity level that allows the market to function normally or optimally. So that's what we hope is the next step for the art market.
Even the T-bond market sometimes has a liquidity issue, so you can imagine.
Yeah. So getting to a place where the art market is more fluid and will reinforce the robustness, the solidity of prices. Because when you know that a piece that you buy for 15,000 has a potential price of 10 or 20 or 30, it establishes a core that makes this $15,000 or euros mean a completely different story than $15,000 that evaporate into, we don't know if it's ever going to be back on the market because there's no potential buyers, or we wouldn't know where to take this. So for us, the next step is really the liquidity and how that brings this stability and this robustness into the trade and a level of trust that is new in the market. I think it also has to do with a better understanding of the price of art and why prices are not supposed to be or should not be just made out of thin air. They're actually, in the best cases, they should always be based on facts and based on long-standing reasons and fundamentals that justify their lasting power. So that's, art historian speech here, but the value of time and the value of enduring
enduring reconnaissance, yes, for sure. And I think ultimately this is what stands. Well, I think also from what I have learned from our 5 years is that partnering is very much about complementarity and admitting the complementarity, admitting that you never have the solution on your own. I mean, you can put a problem, you can share a problem, and and with the right partner, people who are curious about your own organization enough to say, okay, let's play around, there may be something we can do together. And this mentality is not so common because it means a degree of risk acceptance, also a degree of open-mindedness, curiosity. So there are many preconditions in order to make this game work fluidly.
A lot of corporations have a hard time actually putting together the right ingredients for a successful collaboration with the startup. And especially with startups like ours, where we're not selling, an email messaging system, like we're selling something that has a transformative power. And so the level of creativity it requires on the client side is very high. And so for a large company that has a different, timeline, different metabolism than a startup, it's like the elephant and the mouse. It's like your heartbeat is not our heartbeat. A month for us is a very long time, when for you a month is nothing. So getting to align our, biological rhythms, being able to make decisions in a rhythm that doesn't kill you or doesn't kill us, I think has been one of the reasons why we've successfully worked together.
Yeah, I think we have also admitted our own pitfalls, our own limitations. We know that there are things we were not good at or we cannot do easily because of our own constraints. So I think it's also important not to anticipate things which cannot happen simply by the very nature of who we are. And but I think it has been at the core a very fruitful journey because we had all. I think we shared, and I'm thinking of the whole team, this dynamic of trying to bring new things to life. This kind of creativity urge. There is always a solution to a problem if we put our brain at work and we associate ourselves with the right people, with people with the same kind of spirit. And I think this is a very exciting journey when it works, because every time we find another way to do things, to use the data better, I hope to the satisfaction of the public and the clients.
I think we still have a lot to discover. We're still at the beginning of the journey, but it's true. It's been a quite unique partnership between our teams, and the level of trust as well. Trusting that maybe today we're not where we want to be, but tomorrow we will find this. And we are always pushing the limits of what is possible. I think that's been quite amazing working with the ARTE Generali team.
Yeah, same for Wondeur, I must say.
Thank you.
Thank you.